They were gentlemen. I mean, they weren't assholes. They were nice men, but they were hardcore. They were hard-working men.
You've probably seen the headlines, the clickbait thumbnails, and the shocking lists promising to reveal the Hollywood A-listers that Sam Elliott just can't stand. For over 50 years, he's been the definition of Hollywood cool to voice, the mustache, the quiet professional. But is it true that at 80 years old, he's finally naming names? Well, today we're cutting through the rumors and getting to the truth. While Elliot has certainly been more outspoken in recent years, the idea of a secret hate list is mostly the stuff of internet legend. We're going to break down the one public clash that was 100% real, and then we'll investigate the other rumored feuds that have taken on a life of their own. This isn't just a list, it's a look at how one man's unwavering principles got twisted into a series of Hollywood myths. Let's start with the one that's actually true. The conflict between Sam Elliott and Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't a long, simmering feud, but a very public explosion that happened in early 2022 on the WTF with Mark Maron podcast. The topic was Jane Campion's Oscar favorite film, The Power of the Dog. The host, Mark Maron, loved it. Sam Elliott, not so much. What came next was a raw, unfiltered critique that set Hollywood on fire. Elliott called the movie a piece of shit, a soundbite that immediately made headlines. But his problem wasn't just with the film's quality. For Elliott, a man who has built his career on the Western genre, the film felt like an attack on something sacred. He questioned what Jane Campion, a director from New Zealand, could possibly know about the American West. He was furious that the movie was shot in New Zealand to look like Montana, telling Moran that effing rubbed me the wrong way, pal. His sharpest comments, however, were aimed at the film's portrayal of its cowboys, particularly Benedict Cumberbatch's character. Elliott compared the ranchers, who appear shirtless in scenes, to Chippendales dancers and scoffed at what he saw as allusions to homosexuality throughout the effing movie. When Maron explained that this theme was central to the story, Elliott seemed to wave it off, his anger rooted in what he felt was a complete misunderstanding of the classic cowboy archetype. The backlash was immediate. Elliott was accused of everything from homophobia to misogyny. Benedict Cumberbatch himself responded calmly but firmly, calling Elliott's take a very odd reaction and speaking to the massive intolerance in the world at large towards homosexuality. Facing the firestorm, Elliott did something rare in Hollywood. He gave a full, public apology. He admitted he wasn't very articulate and said he felt terrible for hurting people with his words. "I said some things that hurt people, and I feel terrible about that," he stated, specifically apologizing to the cast and Benedict Cumberbatch by name. He also made it a point to voice his support for the gay community, who he said had been incredible to him his entire career. While the apology was sincere, the incident showed the world just how deeply Elliott holds his vision of the West. And it's this single event that fueled every other rumor on this list. When Netflix launched The Ranch, pairing sitcom star Ashton Kutcher with Sam Elliott seemed like a genius move. For 4 seasons, they played a father and son who often clashed but always found their way back to each other. On screen, it was classic family tension. But according to internet rumors, the tension off-screen was very, very real. The story goes that this was a clash of generations. Elliott, the old-school workhorse who believes in quiet discipline, versus Kutcher, the product of the modern Hollywood machine who built an empire on charm, social media, and sitcoms. The rumor mill churned out alleged quotes with insiders claiming Elliott had privately called Kutcher not a real actor or that he was acting like a guy who saw acting on YouTube. So, what's the reality? There is zero credible evidence to support any of this. These juicy quotes have never been verified and exist only in the realm of gossip. In fact, Kutcher once described working with Elliott as the best. It's also important to remember that Elliott was a producer on The Ranch. The idea that he would foster a hostile or disrespectful environment on a show he was helping to lead just doesn't add up. The feud seems to be a complete fabrication, born from the simple fact that the two actors have very different styles. Here, we have a clash of acting titans, who are polar opposites. Sam Elliott is the master of quiet, simmering intensity. He believes a single look can say more than a page of dialogue. Nicolas Cage is not. Cage is famous for his explosive, go-for-broke style he calls nouveau shamanic. He doesn't invite you in. He blows the doors off the hinges. They shared the screen in the 2007 superhero flick Ghost Rider, where Elliott played the stoic, wise mentor to Cage's chaotic anti-hero. The internet narrative claims that this dynamic continued when the cameras stopped rolling, with the two actors never connecting on a personal level. One widely circulated but completely unverified quote says Elliott described Cage's acting as more firework than flame, a clever line, but one he never actually said. On record. The truth is, there have been no public statements or credible reports of any conflict on that set. The story of their philosophical divide is pure speculation. It's an easy story to believe because their styles are so different, but there's no evidence to suggest it was ever a source of actual tension between the two men. This one is unique because the rumored clash is so intense. It supposedly prevented the two actors from ever working together at all. The story goes that Sam Elliott was up for a major film, but when he heard Jared Leto was also being cast, he walked away from the deal. The reason? A supposed deep-seated hatred for Leto's extreme brand of method acting. Leto is infamous for his on-set antics, sending creepy gifts to co-stars as the Joker, or using a wheelchair and crutches for the entire production of Morbius, causing delays. For a no-nonsense professional like Elliot, who believes the work should be done without disrupting the cast and crew, this kind of behavior would seem like the ultimate sign of disrespect. An alleged quote even has Elliot calling Leto's style theatrics, masquerading as talent. It's a compelling narrative, but once again, it's completely unsubstantiated. There is no public record of Elliot ever being attached to a project with Leto, let alone walking away from it. The story, and the quote, appear to be fabricated, created to pit the old-school traditionalist against the modern method actor. It's a great story, but as far as anyone can prove, it's just not true. This rumor is probably the most off-base of them all, because it suggests a falling out between two men who appear to be genuine friends. Elliot and Jeff Bridges created magic together in The Big Lebowski, and for years they were seen as kindred spirits, laid back, authentic talents who cared more about the work than the fame. So, where did the feud story come from? It's pure speculation, suggesting that as Bridges became more of a Hollywood figure, winning an Oscar and starring in Iron Man, Elliot grew disappointed that his old friend was embracing the celebrity game they once stood apart from. It suggests a quiet grief on Elliot's part, a feeling that his friend had traded authenticity for glamour. This narrative is directly contradicted by reality. The two have appeared together publicly for years, always speaking warmly of each other. In 2023, Elliot talked about how happy he was to reunite with Bridges at the SAG Awards. This isn't a story of a tragic falling out. It's a fictional tale spun from two actors taking slightly different paths. The dude and the stranger still abide, and their friendship seems to be doing just fine. On paper, Sam Elliott and Kevin Costner should be brothers in arms. They are two of the biggest figures in the modern Western. But a narrative of a quiet rivalry has persisted for years, and it all comes down to one show, Yellowstone. Unlike other rumors, this one has a grain of truth, though it's been twisted. Elliot has publicly criticized Yellowstone. In his famous WTF podcast interview, he said bluntly, "I don't watch Yellowstone," before adding that he found it too much like F-ing Dallas or something for me. He finds the show too polished and melodramatic, preferring the raw historical grit of 1883. The prequel he chose to star in after turning down a role in the main series. However, this is where the truth ends and the myth begins. Elliot's criticism is aimed at the show, not the man. In that same breath, he made it clear that he loves Kevin Costner and many of the actors on the show. This isn't a personal feud, it's a professional disagreement about how the West should be portrayed on screen. Elliot prefers the dust and dirt of 1883 to what he sees as the rhinestones of Yellowstone. He doesn't hate Kevin Costner, he just hates his show. The top spot on the internet's fake feud list goes to the biggest movie star on the planet, Tom Cruise. The story here is that Elliot was once considered for a Mission Impossible movie and flatly refused because he has a fundamental opposition to everything. Cruise represents spectacle over substance. The rumor claims Elliot sees Cruise's relentless, stunt-driven heroism as lacking quiet power, where Elliot's characters are defined by their stillness and authority. Cruise's are defined by how fast they can run or how high they can jump. To Elliot, the story goes, Cruise isn't acting so much as he is executing a series of death-defying stunts, and the character gets lost in the noise. Once again, this is a fantastic story with no basis in reality. There is no evidence Elliot was ever offered a role in the franchise or that he has ever publicly criticized Tom Cruise. While he has said he respects Cruise's work ethic, the idea that he harbors a deep philosophical opposition to his acting is pure fanfiction. Tom Cruise lands at the #1 spot on this list simply because he is the ultimate symbol of the modern blockbuster machine that a traditionalist like Sam Elliott seems to exist in opposition to. But the feud itself, it's a complete fabrication. So, does Sam Elliott really have a list of actors he hates? The answer is a resounding no. What he has is a powerful, unshakable code of what acting, professionalism, and the American West mean to him. A single candid interview moment has been spun into a web of exaggerated and completely fake feuds. The truth is far less dramatic, but much more interesting. He's not a man who holds grudges, he's a man who holds principles. Whether you think he's a relic from a bygone era, or a voice of integrity the industry desperately needs, one thing is clear, Sam Elliott knows exactly who he is, and he's never been afraid to stand his ground, even if it means standing alone.